What's up, Mortgage Coach community? I am super pumped to interview Bill Dallas. For who knows how many times we've had conversations like this, Bill, but I always look forward to it.
Me too. Yeah, this is going to be good. It's a good wrap from the first half.
Exactly. So folks, for those of you that have been tuning into my 2022 halftime report that I did with Kristen Messerly, this is a debrief, and I had interviewed Bill before I wrote that. I think you were actually the second interview I did, so thank you for that, brother.
Welcome.
Yeah, and you said a lot of super smart things. I would, if you have not listened to that, whether you're an executive or a loan officer, I would recommend it. It was a great conversation. In the halftime report, there's also a link to the transcript of all of the interviews and the video, so check it out. So Bill, in this conversation, I want to do more of a debrief because, two things have happened. One, we wrote it, we had some takeaways. I would love to get some feedback on that. And then two, things are moving quick. I mean, we're a month and a half, 2 months later, and we could almost do a whole nother report because things are changing so quick. So let's just start with what'd you think of the report and anything that jumped out at you about it?
Yeah, I think like we were chatting a little bit before. I think the first thing is it is a little bit like sports, right? Where you have a halftime, you go in, you've got your butt kicked, and then you come back and you try to make adjustments, right? So when I always try to look at what was the good, the bad, and the ugly from sort of what we did, right? So when you and I want to commend you guys for putting this together because it was the economic data, the housing information that you guys provided. We don't normally get that from like Mortgage Coach. We get it from an assimilation of places. So I thought first, for an executive or a leader or branch manager or somebody trying to navigate it, right, you got to have good information about what's going on. And when I used to coach, it was hard for me to coach. I mean, when I was coaching football, if I'm standing right there and watching everything that goes on, it's very difficult for me to call a play or to look at it. So I called the play. So I always stayed down away where I could sort of see. And I think this is really what's happening with mortgage now. I think you can now the second half, I think we can take a look back a little bit of the good and the bad and the ugly and say, okay, can we make halftime adjustments and what should we do? But I think for you guys, I want to commend you for doing it. But I think if you took volumes down, margins down, costs are up, layoffs way up, right? I think the data that we provided it was going to be tough. I think when you look at sort of and I would say, is that good or bad? It's just sort of where we were, right?
Yeah,
I think it's
it's
created housing unaffordability. It's created some other challenges that maybe we didn't expect, but overall, I think it was really a good halftime update, right? And I felt you guys did a great job in doing it.
Thanks, Bill. Hey, one quick question I had, that came out of the interview I did with Michael Frantoni with the NBA. He had really called out the fact that units were way down. A lot of people in the industry are like, oh, it's going to be the third best year from a volume perspective. And maybe the third, maybe the fourth out of 15 years. But when you look at the volume, the actual, not
units,
volume,
unit numbers. Yeah.
And when you looked at refis, they were I think it was 700,000, compared, it was literally the worst refi year in history. Or it's forecast.
Unit-wise. Yeah.
Unit-wise, correct.
And I also think, most mortgage companies that I know had a plug in their 2022 budget, and that plug was for a volume coming from a higher margin product, and none of that showed up, right? Because I think the non-QM market, to some extent, the jumbo market, it got crushed early on. And so it really forced people to look at their unit. And when because when you're building an operations team inside, the unit count really whether you're looking at apps or you're looking at locks or you're looking at actual loans that are going through the system, you got to build it for that unit count. And that has been way down. And I see that continuing, because you really look at the market today, it's higher loan balances than I think most people expected. And it's probably more, a little bit more purchase from everybody. And we still haven't seen the equity rich group, like you guys had called it. I still haven't seen that group show up yet.
Yeah, well, I think there's three things going on, and then I want to get into opportunities, but the unit count has thrown things off more than we expected. The product mix hurt the industry worse than expected. And then my take on the whole, like the low end's getting hurt more than the high end, is that the low end is more mortgage dependent, like it really, and then the high end, there's more, there's wealthier people that don't need the mortgage as much, or they don't need the loan to value as much. I don't know. Do you think that's the case? Why?
I do. Yeah, I think, I think you see it a little bit more, I'm going to call it, sort of the blue collar folks showing up to buy houses. I think the good news is inventory is showing up a bit. So there's more listings nationwide, although we're still severely depressed. Home prices have slowed a little bit, so you don't have this massive 20 cash offers or a bunch of cash offers depressing it. That also has allowed, I think, what I would call just normal buyers, first-time home buyers or others. And that's really the call, right? The first-time home buyers have always been 30, 40% of our market. And when it's 10, 15, 20%, it really clogs the system. And so we're clear out on, we were completely away from that for almost a year and a half. And now I think it's coming back.
Yeah, that's good to know. So let's jump onto opportunities. You've had some time to reflect. You've had some time and now that you're not on a team,
yeah, it's pretty cool.
You're coaching, right?
Yeah.
So you're helping some CEOs and some, executive teams, I take it?
Yeah, and I'd say, it's like you said, right? Pivot 2.0. If I use the word, like I'd said in the first one, if I use the word pivot, I used it 1,000 times. I try to get people to think about it in 2018. I think you need the P, right? You need proprietary products. So you need the I is there, interest rates are higher. V, it's going to be volatile. And it has been in bond, equity, and real estate markets. And then, like you said, the O and the T, opportunities abound, I think. And there's a transformation that I think we should talk about that is longer term, that is beginning to play out. But the opportunities that abound, I think, are only available to people that have the three. When I work with the CEOs and people who run businesses, I basically use three short acronyms so they can remember them. But DLM, don't lose money. If you're not losing money, you control your destiny. And then I say LCP, you have low cost to produce. Where do you stack up? Because low cost to produce, you hear this debate going back and forth right now, what I've said, which would be big retail, consumer direct, broker, or now there's this new term that I've probably began to coin, which we call skinny retail. And you're sort of looking at people, the lowest cost to produce can provide the best price. And the best price could get you more loans. And so I think you're seeing DLM, LCP, low cost to produce, win, right? And people shifting all over the place. And then I think when you start looking at BA, right, when we're looking at being able to try to use more of what I think mortgage people have struggled with assets. And so I call BA is sort of my long-term play, build assets. And I try to get mortgage companies think, all right, look, we got to survive our current, right? So we got to have DLM and else and this low cost to produce, but we also need to build a business that has some value to it, right? And so I've used really most people don't want leases, the 3 L's, leases, liabilities, and LOs, right? They just don't. There needs to be some asset created. And since we're mostly selling servicing, and I think most people are, in fact, the first half of the year would have been the biggest probably servicing market that I've seen in maybe 10 years, where everything was for sale. Now, and it's still for sale, it's still bleeding out based upon how much cash you need. So BA is building assets. So, and I think that's really where you guys come in, right? With no borrower left behind. I think the idea is you've got to retain the customer relationship, and you've got to, I mean, I was reading Jeremy's, I mean, you look at most of these big time loan officers like Forcier or different folks, and where are all their loans coming from? Their database.
That's their database. Yeah, they're the database.
I think mortgage companies, if I have just leases, liabilities, and LOs, I've built zero value for my organization. If I retain servicing, I have an asset. So what is the asset? The asset is the customer, and we have to sign the customer up. We can't just talk about it. So what can we do? And so I'm working with companies on this home advisor agreement. It's really taken off. And so I'm trying to get at closing to actually have customers sign up, right, with the lenders that I'm working with. So those 3 things. I think Pivot 2.0 is a little bit about, are you still losing money? If you are, you got a problem. So, and I think most are. I mean, you check, and the way I check this information, all you got to do is ask a warehouse banker. Mm-hmm. How are their customers doing, right? How many customers do you have that are profitable, blah, blah, blah. But I like that, and then begin to ask yourself some questions, right? How can you control point of sale? What is your cost to produce compared to others? Can you lower it? Did you lower it? How can I own the customer relationship after I close a loan? Right? What can we do? What are we good at?
So I have a big closing question, but before I ask that, because I want to really net out a few things in the debrief, but I want to make sure everybody heard what PIVOT, Pivot 2.0 is. So Pivot is proprietary product. What is the
I is interest rates higher. V is it's volatile. We're going to have volatility in all markets, bond, equity, real estate. O is for opportunities. And they only exist. The opportunities only exist for those not losing money with the low cost to produce. And then T is there is a transformation happening, and you can feel it. And you've got to build your company part of that. And it's data, retaining the customer, all the things that you guys are working on and the industry is trying to figure out.
So let me walk you through our mission and our vision, and I want to get your thoughts on this. So first of all, since we talked last, I've done a number of interviews where I've got some new thinking. Socia Vila, when I interviewed him, and I was asking about how is he taking his proprietary tech stack, which is, I think it's, I'm not sure exactly what CRM they're using, but they're using a CRM that Sales Boomerang is integrated into. So they've got borrower intelligence, they've got Mortgage Coach, they have HomeBot, and what he's telling realtors, I like, well, what's your script when you're talking to an agent? He's like, I tell them how they need to start thinking like billionaires, and billionaires, to billionaires, data is the new dollar. And I'm like, pretty good. And then I interviewed Steve Della Vega the other day, and he's like, we need to quit calling it the database and start calling it the data bank. And,
yeah, it's true.
And so, which that brings me to where we're at in terms of how we're looking at Mortgage Coach and Sales Boomerang. And we're really looking at it is we've got a vision. We believe all borrowers can achieve financial freedom. So we need, I think as an industry, when you talk about how do we create dollar and differentiation, we need to, yes, we sell loans and transactions, but we need to sell something more aspirational than that.
Yeah.
And, and using loans to acquire real estate with the business, with the personal goal of being debt-free and having financial freedom, that's powerful.
It is.
And then we, again, with our platform, there's a lot of different ways of doing that, but it's to empower lenders to provide the best personalized loan strategies to borrowers for life. So,
Yep.
so in the way we look at this whole, platform that we're building in the category that we're creating, which is borrower intelligence platform, it's like, hey, we recognize you as a lender have a lot of different databases. You've got a CRM of record, Total Expert or Top of Mind or whatever it is. You've got a database, you've got an LOS, you've got lots of different databases, but we just need to make sure that we're being intelligent with that data. We're applying our data intelligence to that, no matter where the data is. And then we're delivering a presentation so that helps vision cast for that consumer how to get into debt in the most intelligent way possible, and how to get out of debt in the most intelligent way possible.
Well, there's nothing more frustrating like your data bank, right? There's nothing more frustrating for a consumer to come back to a mortgage company and we ask for all the information again and again and again, right? So I think the first challenge that we have is like in my prior company, when we started looking at this and really analyzing, okay, in 18 and 19, we better be ready for this refinance boom. We weren't sure what was going to happen, but we knew it was going to be big. We had 57 different databases. 57 databases where stuff stored. The problem with mortgage companies, and so with the companies I work with, we walk into how do we store the data, which it can't just be stuffed into your LOS because you can't do anything with it. So you've got to keep it in a data bank or something that is easier, whether it's a SQL database or a different type. You've got to be able to make it actionable, and then hook, like you were saying, hook. What's the customer want to know long term? I want to know what my home is worth at almost all times. I want to know what other homes are selling for. I want to be able to access my credit, and I want to have a friend in the business. And so I think long term, what we're seeing is this collision with the data bank, and I'm going to call it financial fitness. And you see financial fitness, and this is long term sustainability, right? So what I try to do with, and loan officers have missed it to some extent, right? When we sell servicing, we lose that relationship, that tight relationship that we really had when we originated the loan. And so we've got to build some platform for that chasm to, after we close a loan, we open a long-term relationship. And in that relationship, there has to be enough goodies so that customer is willing to stay connected to you. I actually think it should be contractual, where you actually give them a home services or home advisor agreement. And that agreement allows me and you to stay connected, because compliance is also a problem, right? Or a challenge, right? Where they have to opt in. Can I contact them? All the grist in this refinance mill of when you sell servicing, there's LLPAs. I can't contact the customer. I can't do these things. So all of that has to go away because the customer doesn't care. The customer wants that advisor to stay connected to them. And to the extent that you can bring good value, I think you can build an asset, right? And that asset is really valuable to anybody. But if you look back at, like, I look back at my own career, and as a loan officer, I mean, I have no data from my first 20 years of First Franklin. I mean, right? It's like,
Yeah.
Today you should have all of the information forever on all your customers and be able to call on it at any minute. And the key, I think, is making it actionable, right? To where you can help the customer do what they want to do. I've always said, you got to meet the customer sort of how they roll. And it doesn't really matter whether you're consumer direct, a mortgage broker, skinny retail, or just, stuck into the bowels of a bank is where you work. I mean, all the customer wants is for you to help them. And I think what's interesting about where we are, I think, in the world is diversity, equity, inclusion, climate change. I actually think sustainable wealth have all become bigger mantras than even affordable housing. So to the extent that we can give you a home and keep you in that home and help you use the equity in that home to sort of build a more balanced future, right? I think that's the game for homeowners.
Yeah, no, I love that term, sustainable wealth. So let's make this actionable for loan officers as well as executives here as we close out this conversation. I believe firmly, really for the past decade, that if a loan officer made their database their number one priority, one, they would build a residual income business for themselves and they'd have more leverage with realtors. But I would go as far as to say now we're at a point where your survival is around the data. If you can own the data, and owning the data doesn't mean you have a phone number and an email address in a CRM. Like that is no longer winning. It's having borrower intelligence on the front end and the back end, be able to deliver something intelligent to the loan officer so they can be at the right place at the right time, be able to put that experience in front of a consumer, a la mortgage coach, a la HomeBot, a la what are some other front end tech that you think lenders and loan officers should be looking at?
Well, I think mobile, right? So I think
Right.
if you look at, I mean, I've seen companies have their own mobile front end. You've got Simple Nexus, you've got Blend, you got FinHabits for the Latino Hispanic community, you've got Pay Forward, you got Daily Pay, you then have what I would call FinLocker, right, in our space. I actually think mobile is where we've missed it.
Yeah, no
right?
doubt.
We just don't. I mean, look, everybody's walking around with a. I mean, even like when you're trying to hook back. Like I've helped colleges with a company that I was involved with early on, trying to advancement or gifting and things, trying to get connected back to your alumni base. I mean, think about how difficult that is, right? You went to college, nobody called me, I don't have an email. I mean, and then suddenly, what, 20 years later, I want to reconnect with my university. The only thing the university really needs is a phone number. And if they had your mobile phone number, you're always connected and you have to opt in. The problem with mortgage is texting and opting in via phone and text is still pretty difficult, or at least from a compliance standpoint, it's challenging.
That's
my view, my view is that we need to, with this mobile, my suggestion would be if you're going to build an asset, sign the customer up. If I'm a loan officer, sign them up. Don't just talk about it. Actually give them an agreement, a home services agreement, and tell them what you're doing. And so what I'm going to do is combine it with mobile. You guys download a mobile app every 5 minutes, right? We get some mobile app, we click a button and we say we agree. Okay. So what I want to do in that mobile app should be not only a connection to the loan. In fact, I actually think that's probably a weak one. I think it has to be the financial fitness.
Yeah.
Right. So it has to have, you have to be able to manipulate the payment stream on the mortgage, right? Because if you're going to want to pay it off sooner, or you're going to want to pay it off faster, or you're going to want to build equity in that way, you've got to be able to do it. I actually think there's an annuity in there, right? If I were helping, what I would say anybody that owns a home should have some sort of second to die insurance on the house, just in case, right? Why not, right? It pays off, my mortgage is paid off. That keeps us connected. And then I think fitness is trying to make sure that I'm in a constant state of readiness. I understand all the products. And as I'm out trying to make decisions on debt or liabilities, I have a debt advisor. You are that debt advisor. And no, yes, that's what a loan officer, I mean, if you're going to count them as a customer, they ought to be in your pen and you ought to have them signed up.
Yeah, and then just a reminder to all you loan officers and lenders, Mortgage Coach integrates with all of them. I mean, I am super pumped. We integrate really well with Simple Dexis. So we literally turn that point of sale app into an advice platform. We integrate really well with HomeBot. Obviously, Sales Boomerang and Mortgage Coach are connected. And I think we're getting closer with the FinLocker crew.
Yeah.
I think what they built is incredibly smart. And hopefully that integration will be in the market before too long. Bill, is there any other closing thoughts for the executives that are listening, or loan officers, or however you want to wrap it up?
I think, Tim Brahim and I wrote, this too,
Oh
way
my
back
God,
when.
99.
In 99, 2000, we wrote this book called Strategic Financing.
That's right.
And have you ever seen anything? This market today is about strategic financing, right? Because I've never seen, I mean, I had a person say, so what's a 2-1 buy down? And what's a
Right.
1-0? And what's the difference between a temporary and a permanent buy down? And how does this work? I mean, and investors, I mean, I had one company that actually was including the discount points in their actual revenue. Right? It's like, okay, wait, the discount point is paid for by somebody else and it lowers the rate. It isn't money, it isn't margin that you're making. Well, they just have never seen it. I mean, so when you think about so I got a feeling it's a little bit of old school, right? Control point of sale, be relationship driven, and really get focused. Because I actually think we're going to have a tsunami of equity rich customers trying to pull equity out, right? It's just happening, right? Because you have too much equity. There's too many other things that have to happen. So I tell loan officers, you've got to have a proprietary product that's focused on what I'm going to call equity. And then you've got to have your purchase products have got to be down and dirty, and they got to be really good, right? Because you're going to have to give eyeballs. And so rather than a price reduction in the property itself, just pay for discount points. But remember, I mean, lenders and investors, we've been burned by this crap before. So everybody's concerned about how much a seller can contribute, who can contribute. But you're going to see all that, right, as we start crescendoing into the second half and first part of 2023.
So, brother, I so appreciate you, and anyone listening to this. I mean, this is what we do at Mortgage Coach. We turn loan officers into strategic advisors. Call them what you want. Call them mortgage coaches, call them financial fitness coaches, call them sustainable wealth advisors. And then, we integrate with every technology. So I feel like the combination of Boomerang, data and Mortgage Coach has never been more valuable. Any suggestions to me on how we can do a better job of telling that story and getting, using this opportunity, this equity tsunami is an opportunity for Mortgage Coach?
Yeah, I actually think the suggestion I would have is help these businesses think about it strategically, right? Build assets. And the asset that they're building is a customer that's, like you said, it's not just in my CRM. It's a real customer. And if I had real customers signed up, and I am building the most incredible asset base that I could be. And if we could figure out a way, I mean, one of the things I'm working on is just how can I retain, not only do I want to build the asset and retain the customer, I would love to retain the servicing and not unbundle that. I actually think that has become somewhat the Achilles heel of mortgage people, because by having this, what I would call servicing interruptus, right? Where you were with me, I loved you, we did all this cool stuff, and we got the loan closed and everything else, and then loan sold 54 times to like 9 people in like a few minutes. Doesn't work, right? It just doesn't. And if you're a correspondent company and you're buying servicing, Now you've got to restart a relationship, right? It's even harder, which they've always experienced. And so I think build that asset, and you can go old school or you can use all the current stuff, and you guys have it all.
I love it. I love it. Well, hey, thank you for the consulting. I appreciate the coaching for me. Anyone listening to this, you know, your database is dollars. You know, I just can't emphasize enough, whether you're a regional leader, you're a branch manager, yeah, your realtor partners, they're critical, like love on them, but nothing is more valuable than your data and how much value you're delivering to the people that are in that database, and through a combination of automation and skilled producers. You know, like if your loan officers can't deliver strategic financing options, they can't deliver 2-1 buy down conversations, seller buy down conversations, you're a transactional loan officer or you're a transactional mortgage company, and that means you need to have the lowest price.
It seems yeah, it seems too that, you know, and I think the other thing you can help with is we sort of suck as an industry at incubating a customer, right?
Sure.
If it doesn't come in and turn into an app, I sort of lose focus. So I actually think the technologies that are available today in terms of how I stay connected and how I incubate because I actually think it could be a long period of time before a customer decides to do something with their equity or they decide to buy a home, right? And all those conversions, you know, good loan officers are able to not only do great volume, but they are constantly building their database, and they look at it as this funnel, and every day they're dropping people into it, whether it's their trusted advisor network of, you know, accountants, financial planners, all those folks, you know, realtors, builders, blah, blah, blah. It's their own database. But like you said in your article, right? Every month in every mortgage company, we DFT or don't fund 20% of our deals, 20% of our apps. So you somehow, those 20% are probably going to do something, because I would venture to say that very few of them are not lendable. They just maybe have the wrong structure, the wrong timing. They didn't get it. And all these I haven't met a loan officer or a realtor. I haven't said I've got customers waiting 20. I've got pre-quals. I got all that stuff. So incubating that customer so that when they're ready, because I also think the other part of this the last 2 years, what have we learned? The customer is not that loyal, right?
Yeah.
If they walk into something and they scoop up the customer, they offer them something else, and you're out. So you have to really stay connected, and great loan officers using your tools, right, stay connected. And they know, right, they're using comparisons, rent v own. They're using comparisons of should I buy now or should I wait? They're trying to make this analysis.
Yeah, decisions.
In my view, yeah, and really our job is to help people make smart decisions.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. And so guys, my closing thoughts are no borrower left behind. And you just made up a really good point. There's a whole lot of customers that think they can't afford a home, and we need to educate them that you can own a home. 20% of the people, you know, are fundable, but you didn't fund. So if everybody in lending from the top down, bottom up, really starts going beyond the transaction, I think we can win. Hey, if there's any executives that want to reach out to you for coaching or, you know, C-suites, you know, are you still speaking in the industry? Are you still providing
still open
services?
Still open for business, not
And
totally full yet.
How would they reach out to you?
Yeah, they can all reach out. Bill at dallascap.com.
Bill at Dallas. And I forgot, I didn't introduce you at the beginning, but you guys could Google Bill Dallas if you're new to the industry and you're like, who is this dude? He's been in just about every seat on the bus in the mortgage space, and always been a great customer of mine and a great friend. So thank you, brother. This call is a wrap. Hopefully I'll get some.
Boom.
All right. Take it easy, Bill.